you are joining a more prophetic vote as we ring out bells, shine a light, and pray prophecy together for a just democracy. It is my honor and joy to introduce a prophetic activist for revolutionary love, spiritual teacher and friend, the Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis, Senior Minister, Middle Collegiate Church, New York City, who will lead us in prayer, followed by the Reverend Dr. Willie Dwayne Francois III, pastor, Mount Zion Baptist Church in Pleasantville, New Jersey, who will offer a reflection. He will then be followed by Rabbi Noah Diamondstein, Assistant Rabbi at Temple Sinai in D.C. Before moving to D.C. in July, Rabbi Diamondstein was working at the Jewish Center for Justice in L.A. He is deeply committed to sounding the call for justice and embodying Dr. King's vision of the beloved community where all are welcome. And we will conclude our time together with a testimony from Erica Cox from Washington State. Welcome.
I'm Jackie Lewis, and I'm the Senior Minister at Middle Collegiate Church. I'm so honored that my colleagues and friends at the Poor People's Campaign and at the Proctor Conference invited me to join in this prayer today. Before I pray, I just need to tell a short story about what has happened already this morning. My congregation has spread itself out around the city to do some work at polls, being chaplains and support, doing poll work. One of our young members, Kaliswa Brewster, was assigned to go to the Brady School out in Brooklyn, Brighton Beach, and for some reason, though she was there at 5 o'clock, those polls were not ready to open until about 8:15. She and a bunch of volunteers struggled to keep cold people calm, struggled to find out how to plug in the ballot machines, struggled with our support. We called Congress people and we called district attorneys and we called the AG office and we called all the voting numbers, and those folks persisted and got that polling place open. And now a slew of volunteers, from a lawyer at ACLU to my clergy colleagues to poll chaplains, have all rallied around this situation in Brooklyn to support Kaliswa as she supports the vote. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. Kaliswa's like Fannie Lou Hamer this morning, walking up and down the lanes in Rouville, Mississippi, making sure that people could vote. She's like my great Uncle George, registering people to vote. She's like C.T. Vivian. She's like John Lewis. She's like Ruby Sales. She's like you. She's like all of you who have stood in line, who have volunteered, who have marched, who have worked to make sure legislation stays in place, who have tried to beat back down voter suppression and redistricting. I'm so proud today to be in this great cloud of witnesses who do not give up, who persist. So I'm praying Thanksgiving today for Kaliswa, for all the people who at the Grady School did not stop, for all the people who answered my emails and calls, for Emma, for Laura, for Amanda, for Graham. Politics is local and it is national and global. Politics is personal and of course it's political. And my personal prayer today is people show up and people don't stop. So all those folks who are standing out in line now today, waiting to vote, wherever you are, may God be with you in the voting booth. May God be with you as you stand in line in the cold. May God be with you as you're thirsty and tired. May you persist. May you hang in and vote for love and vote for justice and vote for peace. May the poll workers smile at you and delight in your tenacity. May you celebrate today that your body did something important today. And if you've already voted, call your friends. If you've already voted, click into phone banks or text banks and make sure that you encourage someone in the swing states to get to the polls. This is a prayer of thanksgiving and it's a prayer of exhortation. We cannot give up. We must not give up. We will not give up. We will not stop. because we who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Holy God, bless all of the human bodies today standing up for justice in your many names and in the name of the brown Palestinian Jew named Jesus who taught us how to love. Amen.
Hi, I'm Willie Dwayne Francois III, pastor of Mount Zion Baptist Church in Pleasantville, New Jersey, and I've never been more excited about the opportunity to vote and never been more anxious about the results of that vote. We are in a very critical moment in the nature, the identity of our nation, and it's really the power of citizens exercising their right to vote that actually makes a democracy a democracy. Our government, our systems, our structures are only as strong and equitable as those people who go to the polls voting for people who are equitable, voting for people who are committed to justice. It is no doubt about it. The strongest resource we have as citizens is the right to vote, and it has been the black vote and young votes that have really remade this democracy. That when people have lived with democracy fatigue because the government didn't live up to its promises on paper, when people have lived with democracy grief because this government has practiced a necropolitics, a politics of death that has not and do not honor the dignity, freedom, and creativity of black lives, it's been those constituencies, black, brown, young folk, who've gone to the polls and made a difference. That the right to vote would not be real in this country without the resilient engagement of black folk. We wouldn't have signature legislation without the participation of black and brown and young voters. And so now is a moment that we must tell ourselves that we are democracy first responders, that we will not allow our democracy to die. And when I'm talking about the death of democracy, I'm not just talking about the death of a system of government. I'm talking about the fundamental freedoms that allow us to be who we are as communities, as individuals, and as a nation. I'm talking about we are fighting now for the right to protest. We're fighting for the right to keep voting. We're fighting for health care. We're fighting for so many kitchen table issues, like what does it mean to ensure that every child gets a high quality education? What does it mean to make sure that every household is guaranteed food and guaranteed a place, a household, guaranteed a place to live? And now more than ever, we need you. We need all of us to see ourselves as democracy defenders, as democracy first responders, so we can protect those things that allow us to be free and to realize the kind of repair that we need in this country: racial repair, economic repair, gender repair in this country. Now more than ever, state and local elections are important in ways that we never thought. With a Supreme Court that is now tilted, imbalanced against justice, against liberty, against civil and human rights, it's going to be on the state and local level that we're actually going to be able to protect our lives and protect our futures. We have to stand today. We have to stand now as the bridge between the past and the possible, and our vote is what will make that happen. Because no matter what happens in Washington, if we vote down ballot, as we make sure we send the right people to the school board, we send the right people into city council and mayor seats, we send the right people to state houses, that is how we'll be able to inoculate ourselves in some ways from the tyranny that can happen, the tyranny and the gridlock that often happens in Washington. So we're voting at the top of the ticket, but we also know now more than ever, we are voting all the way down, because we are going to expand democracy. We're going to protect the right to flourish and the right to grow and the right to live on the local level all the way up. And so make sure you know just how important your vote is, because your vote may be the vote that tips the scale of our nation from evil to justice.
Chaverai, Boker Tov, Shalom Aleichem. Good morning. May the blessing of peace be upon you all. My friends, we ring bells today for a just democracy. We sound the shofar, my people's ancient call for the redemption of our world. We sound the shofar for a just democracy that ensures all citizens vote without intimidation and harassment. We offer a call to prayer for a just democracy for each person, all races, ethnicities, religions, genders, and sexual orientations. We ring bells for a just democracy that eradicates voter suppression laws and lifts up the people, including every one of the millions of disenfranchised voters in our country. We ring bells for a just democracy that respects all workers and knows each of the 236,000 Americans and counting who have died from COVID-19 as essential and sacred. We lift voices in a chant for just democracy that fights poverty, not the 140 million poor and low-income individuals and families in our country. We sound the shofar for a just democracy that ensures health care for all, including the 133 million Americans with pre-existing conditions. We ring bells for the planet Earth, including the sacred lands of the First Nations and indigenous beloved in peril now, as well as water and air for our children and our children's children to live. We ring out bells to remember at our core who we are and who the people of this country may yet be. We ring out bells with clarity of conscience and sacred duty, sounding a shofar in our very souls for those within this country and well beyond, recognizing our responsibility and impact across the world. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lirdof tzedek. Blessed are you, Eternal One, our God, Sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with commandments and commands us to pursue justice. Amen.
My name is Erica. I am a Christian and I live in Seattle, so I cast my vote in Washington State. The 2020 election is important to me because it feels like a really significant chance to oppose the self-preservation that has become even more accepted and glorified in our country in recent years. And whether that's me first individualism or a communal sense of nationalism, the spirit of self-preservation is rooted in fear, and based on what I believe, it's antithetical to a loving God who became human, who gave us an example in the life and death of Jesus. So especially for those of us who have a lot of privilege in this country, this is a really important opportunity for us to love others, to actively care for other people instead of clinging to our own comfort.